Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how CEOs, founders, and senior executives sell their ideas, point of view, and personal brand to the people who matter most. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want to build market eminence, amplify your influence, and attract high-value prospects, investors, partners, talent, and media opportunities with less chasing and more confidence. Let's go. Well, she's back on the show, my friends. You and I know her as GT, but the news is that the awesome and amazing Gina Trimarco has a new book. And the new book is called The New Choice Effect: How to Make the Right Decisions Quickly Without Overthinking. Gina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. I'm so excited to be back here with you.
So you would think this is just an ordinary podcast episode, but it is not. It is the inaugural meeting of Overthinkers Anonymous.
Oh, I love it.
Overthinkers Anonymous. Welcome to the club. Hello, my name is David Newman. I'm an overthinker. So for the people that don't know, before we dive into all of that wonderfulness, could you share a little bit about your professional journey that brought you to the work in the book? The work that you're doing today and the book that you've written, and then what were some interesting kind of pit stops and side trips along the way?
New Choice is actually an improv game, one of hundreds of games. And I want to put that out there first. And I back up a little bit. So the book I had been writing, which is on a shelf right now, and I'll come back to it, is called Improvised Intelligence. And I started writing that book. I had everything trademarked on it, and I have a real solid stake in the ground about emotional intelligence and how improv improves emotional intelligence. Because when we practice improv and we're exercising our brain, we just start to get better at emotional intelligence. And I noticed this maybe 10 years ago, running an improv theater now for 17 years, that everything I learned about emotional intelligence was self-awareness and social awareness is everything that we do on stage. And we practice it constantly. And I'm like, gosh, if the world would actually do this, imagine how emotional intelligence would spike. So that's the book I started to write. And it started to get really heavy because I'm very into neuroscience and the psychology behind everything. And I hit a wall of, like that imposter syndrome of, who am I to write this book, on neuroscience meets art? And then is it too heavy? And then I had a couple conversations with some mentors who kind of derailed me. And then all of a sudden I was having problems making decisions, and I parked the book and I froze. I went into paralysis. And then I was sitting in my theater watching my performers perform last December, a year ago, and they were playing the New Choice game, which is a very common game. And how the New Choice game works is the performers do something on stage. They say something, they do something, and the director yells, "New choice." And the performers have to come up with something new immediately in the moment, no time to think. And sometimes it is words, and sometimes it's a physical movement. New choice, new choice, new choice. And as I sat there watching them that night, and I've watched this game a million times and played it a million times, I said, oh my gosh, that's the book. That's the book. It's how we make decisions in the moment and see them as gifts, even if they're wrong decisions.
So the New Choice game, just for you improv newbies, is this is the one that goes something like, he goes over to the table and he picks up an orange, a banana, a watermelon, a papaya. And you're not, it's just new choice, new choice, new choice. And whatever fruit comes to your head, and maybe it goes from watermelon to it's an anvil, it's a hammer, it's a dental drill. Okay, picks up a dental drill, go. And then you continue with the scene, except now he doesn't pick up an orange, he's picking up a dental drill.
Exactly. And I know this improv world and the game. And sometimes if you frustrate the performer enough, right, because the director gets to have the power, I want the orange, I want the banana, I want the it's sunny out today, because they're just done, going into that pattern. So what you do is you disrupt the pattern. You exhaust them until they come up with a new pattern. And this is how I've run my life, my business, personally, professionally, is all about, I love to break things. I love to make a choice, and if it doesn't work, I love to make the next choice. And I think people get stuck in to me, it's second nature. I'm not normal, but I think for a lot of people, they get paralysis.
Well, and I want to also read a little bit from the description of the book, just in case people are maybe not identifying right away with, is this for them? But the book, according to the book description, is for anyone who wants to stop second guessing themselves, waiting for perfect, replaying conversations at 2 a.m., and hesitating on career, relationship, life goals, decisions, etc. I want to pick up on hesitation.
Yeah.
Because I had an early mentor that said the biggest killer of businesses, the biggest killer of ideas, is not negating the idea or debating the idea. It is, let's say that you want to go ahead with something, you hesitate. And when you hesitate, then you open up this doom loop, right? Of second guessing, third guessing, imposter syndrome, trusting yourself. You are literally imposing a disability on yourself, meaning you are not able to move forward with any decision because you're stuck in this doom loop of hesitation.
Yes.
What are some of the new choice effect principles that help shake us out of that?
That's such a great description that you just gave about hesitation, because when you open up that hesitation, you give your brain too much time to think, and that's where you start to get in trouble. The main principle with new choice is to just do the next thing that comes to your mind. Pretty simple. Yeah. Do not overthink it. And what might come out of your mouth or the decision you might make in that moment might be weird, might sound wrong, might not make sense, but it's the first step to getting to the right step. So the subtitle, Making the Right Decisions, I was intentional with that because people are attracted to, how do I make the right decisions? And the reality is it ever the right decision? I think we focus so much on the right decision versus a decision. Right. So in the beginning of the book, one of my favorite quotes that a coach said to me was, make a decision and then make the decision right.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
What does that look like? I mean, what's the substance behind that? Because it's brilliant.
Well, the substance is to break the pattern, get out of this pattern of overthinking. Like if you think about decision making, and I wanted to write this down so I didn't forget about it. People hesitate in their decisions for a couple reasons. One, I don't want to make the wrong decision. And so if you start to unpack that, well, what's wrong with the wrong decision? Well, I'm going to look stupid to other people. There's going to be ramifications that come from making the wrong decision. But if you really start to look at it, okay, well, what are the ramifications and how bad are they going to be? Because what if the ramifications are really good? What if it's a really good choice that you made a bad choice? So making a bad choice could actually lead to a better choice. And I'm going to dial back for a second. Several years ago, we teach a series of classes. We have 5 levels of classes. And when you get to level 2 of improv classes, I say to the students, in this class, we're going to make better choices. And I had a student push back and say, are you telling me that my previous choices were wrong? And it really stunted me, right? Because I didn't expect that. And I said, no, they weren't wrong. They just can always be better. Even if the better is wrong, they can lead to the better. People are also, they're afraid of not making a perfect choice. This choice has to be perfect. Why does it have to be perfect? And so if you start to unpack that, well, I want to make a choice quickly and perfectly so that I can save time and not have to spend more time in the reinvention process. What's wrong with that? Like, again, you're working towards something beautiful. So when you look at the principle of improv and new choice, basic improv principles, the yes and concept, which is not just about yes anding, right? Accepting what others feel, believe, offer, think without judgment, right? Is a major principle. How about yes anding yourself? How about yes anding your ideas? So people forget about accepting their own ideas because they fear this judgment. I had major fear over this book. Is it the right book? And then I started, I haven't finished, but I started reading Market Eminence. And I want to share this with you because I wrote this down. One of the things that really resonated with me, if no one hates your guts, no one truly loves you.
You got it.
And your discussion on the contrarian slant was so powerful to me. And it really made me pause and think, do I take enough contrarian slants, right, in what I'm doing?
Yeah.
But having this fear around, is this book the right book? I had to just do it. I couldn't question it. I just had to keep writing it and believe that it would resonate with someone. And then the reviews started coming in and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think it might be good.
Hey, hang on. Do you have a copy of my new book, Market Eminence? No? Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's fantastic. It's got over 200 5-star reviews on Amazon. Go grab a copy right now at marketeminence.com. This concept of, you're talking about neuroscience, you're talking about improv, each of these things has kind of a cult, right? And you even talk about some of the cult leaders of the improv movement, Viola Spolin, etc., and some of the big leaders of the big names in neuroscience. People like you come along. People like you, your people like you. You come along and you do this amazing service that I call democratizing and popularizing. What used to be a cult and used to be reserved for the special few, and you translate it into a methodology and a system and a process that everyday people who are not ordinarily part of the cult and maybe even never knew anything about the cult before you came along, but you're democratizing and popularizing these concepts that will help them in a tremendous way. I guarantee you there's theater people that hate your guts. I guarantee you there's neuroscience people that hate your guts. And they're doing kind of the reverse imposter syndrome, going, well, who the hell is she? Who the hell is she to come in here and spill all of our secrets and to put our stuff in plain English and to make it usable by the everyday Tom, Dick, Jane, and Harriet? And so obviously you're going to get some haters, but you are going to do so much more good, and you are going to do so much more by magnifying and amplifying these principles that will help people rewire their brain, redirect their decision making, and start to build up some momentum. I mean, as I was going through some of the ideas in the book, the concept or the theme that kept coming to me is, first you got to crawl before you walk, before you run, before you fly. But all of these things unleash this momentum in people's businesses and lives and families and decision making. So they're no longer constricted. They're no longer stuck and small and sad, and they can actually start to get some forward movement in their lives. So amen to all of that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's about getting unstuck.
Yeah. So let's talk about, let's piss off some neuroscientists. Talk a little bit in chapter 3, you talk about rewiring your brain. And what are some of the neuroscience kind of practices and principles in plain English that this, if we apply the ideas in the book, we will start to do this rewiring of the brain?
Well, it comes down to disrupting the pattern. in the brain, right? So this is, I think you put this really great about how I've brought all these things together. I didn't invent all of these things. I just found a crossroads for all
Yes.
of them. And so, coming from a sales perspective, but even in coaching the leaders that I coach, our brains go into fight, flight, freeze. I also have another F, freestyle. Like that's the brain on improv,
Yeah.
and our brain does these things where we're so fearful that it's about survival, right? And so we have to rewire the brain and show it other things and show it successes. And one of the things I talk a lot about that I discovered just a few years ago on someone else's podcast, as we talked about it, because someone asked me, why are you so fearless? Like when it comes to sales, like I have no fear around asking for money. None. Because what are you going
Yeah.
to say to me? No. Okay. Next. I have no fear around it. And I think the fear came from when you're on stage as an improv performer, and I think you'll be familiar with this. There's a 50-50 chance you are going to fall on your face. Sometimes literally, right?
No, yeah.
There's a chance you're going to fail, that what you do bombs. And what normally happens, and I was just teaching this to a group the other day, when I fail on stage, the audience laughs and claps. So I am literally rewarded by applause and laughter, like I'm some amazing performer, and I failed miserably. And this is a normal way of life for an improviser. We get on stage and we know we're going to possibly fail, but we keep doing it like we're some kind of sick, we're sick people wanting the abuse, but there's an adrenaline rush to it. And so it starts to rewire the brain. The more I get on stage and I take a risk and I fail and I'm actually applauded for it, the more likely I'm going to keep doing it. Now, this doesn't always happen in real life. You might make a mistake at work and not get the applause and the laughter. But I'll tell you, many times I mess things up and I literally bust out laughing, and I laugh at myself. I'm like, well, that was stupid,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so the more you practice that, or the more you're in environments that are going to support that, and 9 times out of 10, people actually have empathy and compassion when you fail. But we've told ourselves that we're losers, and we're not giving enough credit to the fact that someone's actually going to accept the failure. So the more you fail, the more you rewire your brain. And that's the neuroscience piece of it.
And I think one of the things that also jumped out at me from the book is sometimes we give a lot of credit, college experiences, mentors, whatever. This person helped me learn to think. You talk about learning to learn, which is kind of like the superpower of the superpower. Yes, it's important to learn to think, but how do you learn? So how do you learn to learn better? Talk about that learning to learn.
So I'm in the midst of learning to learn right now. So I'm 50 something, even though I look way younger with my new braces on my teeth, which is exciting. I decided to go back to grad school, or go to grad school. It's been on my bucket list. I decided to go to grad school and write a book in the same year, which is I don't know if I would recommend that, but for me, I need to have that much to do.
Yeah.
I had to relearn how to actually go to school because, I went to college 30 years ago, and now everything's different. And that was super frustrating in the beginning. Like my first couple of classes, I'm like, I don't even know how to do this. What is this process? How do you do this? How do you do these things? And that can be super frustrating. And that's where you can kind of quit and give up. So relearning how to learn, you have to be open to it. Now there's something called learning anxiety. Learning anxiety, people get fearful of learning for a variety of reasons. And one of the major reasons why they're fearful of learning is that they're fearful that they're going to look incompetent. They're fearful that someone's asking them. So for example, in training, right? Sales training, leadership training. Why do I have to go to training? Am I not Am I not competent? Am I not good enough? And anxiety kicks in. And I found this really fascinating. And I actually studied this in grad school because it changed my mindset. And I was in the middle of that class while I was writing the book, that leaders have to prepare people to learn. So if you want someone to come in and train your team, you need to actually communicate to them, why are we doing this? What is the benefit for you? This is not because you're stupid. This is so that you can grow. So you actually have to go through a process of being open to learning and not find it to be a judgment. And now there's something else called survival anxiety. There's either learning anxiety or survival anxiety. Survival anxiety is, if I don't do this learning, I might lose my job. We want to actually push people to survival anxiety and push them out of learning anxiety. So
Yeah.
That's I know I've said a lot, but that's a lot of it.
You also, and this was surprising to me, but maybe it's because I'm a bonehead. There is a significant portion of this book that is about your personal life.
Yeah.
It is not just about business and sales and training and learning and all this.
That was a risk.
You talk about creating a healthy home, a physical environment and emotional environment. And you talk about family and family roles. Talk about the application of these principles to home and family.
Sure. And before I dive into that, to give a broader view of where my vision was with this book, I wanted this book to be about decision-making in all aspects. So I based it on the life wheel, right? All the things that we deal with: education, finances, spirituality, family, health, right? So I based it on that, and I made those chapters stand alone so that you could pick up the book and say, you know, I'm really struggling with family dynamics right now. And so each chapter is kind of that standalone chapter where they're not bridging from chapter to chapter. And so it was intentionally designed that way.
Yes.
So the family and the home chapter, growing up with kind of a volatile mother who was an alcoholic that created this volatile environment, yet a father who was like my best friend, who also worked for the mob, made for a very interesting, right? Made for a really interesting family life. And having a mother who kept saying, when are you moving out, had this impact on me of craving a stable home and haven that I could run to. And that was really important to me, to have that home. And in the choices that I made, one of the choices when it came to family was, I can choose my family. Right. Once my father passed, because he passed when I was only 22, because he was so much older than my mother, there was an emptiness without him. And I decided I had to just choose people to be my family. And then my mother passed during 2020. And my brother, you know, this happens when people die. There's fights over the estate and all those things. And I just met my husband. We were only dating for a month. And my brother was just being a jerk. And my husband, boyfriend at the time of 4 weeks, said, don't talk to him. You have me now. And I just clambered to that. I'm like, I don't know how long you're going to be around, but I'll take it.
Nice.
So choose who your family is. If you don't have the best family dynamics, you can choose. My stepson's coming back. He left to go to Purdue. It didn't work out. He's coming back. He's making choices. It's okay to make those choices in your every aspect of your life. But I choose to have a home environment that's really healthy. And I choose the family that I surround myself with.
Since we're going deep here, and the book goes to the deepest possible depths, let's talk about money and let's talk about death, because they're both in the book too. So let's start with financial and making financial decisions, which probably are the most paralyzing to the most number of people, because everyone has money issues. I have money issues. I've worked on them, but I still have money issues. Everyone has money issues, whether they admit to it or not. Making money, saving money, spending money, giving money, all the craziness. How do we get unblocked with our financial life?
Yeah, money is money is like at the center of everything, right?
Yeah.
It impacts everything we do, from the job that we stay in that maybe we're not happy with, to like there's so many decisions that we make in our lives that center around money. And until you are willing to face the music on your money situation, it's never going to get any better. I worked with someone years ago who, an accountant, who used the phrase she used to say is, I get into people's financial underwear drawer, right? Because nobody wants to kind of talk about it. They're embarrassed by the decisions that they've made. Yeah. I have built money and I have lost money many times. I think for me, coming up in a family where we didn't have a lot of money, I always had financial insecurity.
Yeah.
So that was a foundation that followed me. And then I met a guy. Talk about love, the love chapter. I met a guy who turned out to be a true con artist, who took me for everything and devastated me financially. And I was mortified, embarrassed, humiliated for so many reasons. But money was at the root of everything because I lost everything. Yeah. And I had to make some hard decisions and choices and be creative, and get out of it. And I called every credit card company and bargained, and like I was a salesperson. I'm like, take this or take that. What do you want? And find a way to get out of it and clean up my mess. And I bounced back really fast. So I had to face it, but it wasn't the first time I faced that. 2020 was devastating, right? We all were impacted by 2020. I lost my theater. I lost my company during 2020. I was in the middle of a divorce, got nothing out of that. And I had to go through that all over again and face the music, and had major debt with the theater when I came out of 2020. But I had already been through the pattern of face the music, and just make a decision, make one decision. And then when I met my husband, my second husband, that guy who said, forget your brother, we both had debt. We knew that we were probably going to get married, but we didn't want to have debt. So we started working towards, let's get out of this debt. And we went through a Dave Ramsey program. And again, we faced the music. And we put things in place. So you got to face where you are. You got to know your numbers, right? You think about sales too. What are your numbers? Yeah. Right. Don't just like, I just did a training session today on goal planning for next year. What are your numbers? What are you looking to hit next year? What do you want to buy? What expenses do you have? So make the choices, make the little choices, and then they add up. Now, going into death, from debt to death.
Rounding the corner from money to death. Here we go.
So it's interesting because I don't think a lot of people talk about death. And that was a chapter that was not on the original book outline. That chapter kind of got added spontaneously like improv, because I was actually at dinner with my business coach. We were sharing stories about, I was about to put our dog down. He's got an uncle who is in hospice. We were talking about the decisions around death, like who am I to decide when my dog dies? Everything that I had to do when both of my parents died, and the decisions you make for that. Planning my own will and estate for when my day comes. Like, nobody really wants to talk about that or face it.
Nope.
But it's going to happen. So why not talk about it and plan for it?
Yeah.
I was pretty young. My father was sick a lot when I was young. And in high school, I took a class on death and dying to prepare me, because I knew that it was going to be soon. Who does that? I mean, I was a strange child. but I wanted to start the grieving process. And even when he died, I wasn't ready for it, but I faced it. And it's a little morbid to have as a almost last chapter.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there.
Well, although it's amazing, first of all, it's amazing that your high school had this class, and it is such an important, my statistical research has shown that 100% of us are going to die. That's my personal research. I've vetted this, I've validated this. And no one's prepared. Forget about financial preparation. No one is emotionally prepared. And it is such a profound and difficult yet guaranteed experience that someone near to you and dear to you is going to die, and how you process that and how you respond to that, and whether it totally knocks you on your ass or whether you're equipped to be resilient and to process it in a healthy way and to grieve in a healthy way. Talk about grief, because part of the book that really spoke to me is we would rather do anything else other than grieve. We want to push it down. We want to say we're okay, we're fine, and we're not fine. And it's a problem when we suppress it like that.
Grieving is so important. Choose to grieve, but also realize that people grieve differently. So this is another part of death that has always been interesting to me. I've experienced a lot of death early in life, right? Like, I lost my father when I was 22. I lost my mother not that long ago. Having an older father, like so many people were older than me, so I had to experience death. And there weren't a lot of people in my life that had experienced death. So people are kind of stupid when other people, they don't know what to say to you, right? They say the stupidest things when someone dies. And I had to learn how to have grace really early, because I realized that people don't know what to say. And you can't get angry about it as the person grieving either, because people have not experienced death and don't know what to do with it. But for yourself to grieve, if you don't do that and you lock it up, it can show up and manifest in different ways from my experience. So when my father died, I didn't really have a lot of time to grieve, because my mother was a young widow. She was in her 40s. My father had done everything. I had to kind of step in his place and take over for her. So for him to get her through it. So I was helping her grieve, and I wasn't grieving, and I didn't have a mother to help me grieve. And then I just kept going about life, not grieving. And I think this is where it bit me in the butt, because when I met that con artist, I met him in the church that my father was baptized and buried in. And this guy knew all the things to say, and he had researched my dad, and he was a true con artist. And so that manifested that when I met this guy who seemed to know so much about my father, that's where I got in trouble, because I had never fully grieved and was able to walk away from missing that best friend and my father, and it hurt me. And then when my mother died, I was very concerned that I was going to do it again, because I felt fine when she died. Now, she had been in hospice, so I saw it coming. My father died of a heart attack. It was sudden, two differences. And so I asked my therapist, because I was in therapy at the time, because in the middle of a divorce, that's another grieving. And I said, I'm concerned here that I'm not grieving my mother's death. And I just want to make sure I don't repeat not grieving.
Right.
And she was the one that was able to point out to me. She said, no, you've already grieved her death. You grieved her death before she died. You came to terms with the relationship, accepted it for what it was. You're good. And it was just nice to hear someone say that, because if you've never had to go through grief, you might not know what it is. You might not know what to do with it. Get help for it. Choose to use your emotions, feel your emotions. Don't worry about what other people have to say, but give yourself space to take care of yourself in that situation.
As we're landing the plane here, Gina, I've got two final questions to ask you. The final question is, where can people go to learn more about you, the book, all that good stuff? But even before we get to that, if folks were to take one core concept from our conversation today about the new choice effect and all these areas of life that it applies to, what would you say that core takeaway should be for them?
If you're having doubts about any decisions or any choices you're making, do not give room to let that doubt breathe. Just make a choice. See what happens with that choice. If you don't like that choice, you get to make a new choice. And that's a big mistake. I think people feel like they can't make another choice. You can make 10 more choices after that. That would be my big takeaway.
So good. And I could not agree more. Where can people go to get connected and stay connected to more Gina Trimarco brilliance? What links should go into the show notes?
Sure. GinaTrimarco.com is the best place to go because that's where all the things are. The book and all the things, the old podcasts. I'll bring another podcast back because after reading your book, I got the author, I got the speaker, I need the podcast back because obviously that needs to be one of my pillars. GinaTrimarco.com or thenewchoiceeffect.com will take you straight to the book.
Totally amazing. All those links will be directly under this episode at thesellingshow.com. Gina Trimarco, you are a rock star. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, David.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.